It was around 2:30 a.m. when I left my friend's apartment. The rain had just stopped, but the roads were still wet, glistening under the dim, flickering streetlights. I was taking the back road home. Quiet, narrow, lined with massive trees that always looked like they were leaning in, listening. I drove slowly, the kind of slow where the silence in your car starts to feel alive. I had music on low, more for company than enjoyment. That's when I saw her. She stood perfectly still, beneath a streetlight that wasn't even working. Her white dress was soaked, clinging to her like a second skin. Her hair was long and black, plastered to her face. And she didn't move, not even when my headlights passed over her. At first, I thought she was a lost hitchhiker, or maybe someone who'd been in an accident. But something about the way she stood, so still, so stiff, made my stomach twist. It felt staged, like she was waiting for something. I passed her, kept driving, but I couldn't shake it. My hands gripped the wheel tighter. The farther I went, after about 50 meters, I stopped. Don't, something in me said. Just keep driving. But I reversed. When I rolled down my window, I called out, "Miss, are you okay? Do you need help?" She didn't respond, didn't flinch, just stood there, her face pointed toward the ground. I parked and stepped out. The air was thick, the smell of wet leaves and concrete still fresh. My footsteps echoed as I approached. That's when the broken streetlight above her suddenly flickered on, and I saw her fully. She was barefoot, her feet black with mud. Her arms hung at her sides, but her hands were strange. The fingers were bent at wrong angles, like every bone had been broken and left to heal crooked. Her nails were cracked and caked with dirt. Then she raised her head. Her eyes weren't just rolled back. They were entirely white. No pupils, no sclera, just blank, empty orbs. I froze. Then she smiled. A wide, slow, deliberate smile that stretched her mouth farther than I thought skin could go. Her lips tore at the corners. There was no blood, just the sound, that awful, wet tearing sound. I stepped back. One step, two, and she twitched. Not like a normal movement. It was like a glitch. Her head jerked sideways, then upright again, all in less than a second. I turned and ran back to the car, slammed the door, locked everything, tried to catch my breath. When I looked back at the streetlight, she was gone. I stared, heart pounding, waiting for her to reappear. Nothing. Then I glanced at the rearview mirror. She was sitting in my back seat. I couldn't even scream. My throat closed up. Her face was right behind mine, close, smiling, that same unnatural smile. She tilted her head against the seat, like a curious child. I swerved the car off the road. It spun and crashed into a shallow ditch. I must have blacked out, because the next thing I remember is blue and red lights flashing in my eyes, and an officer pulling me out of the wreck. He kept asking if I'd been drinking. I just kept whispering. She was there, in the car. He checked everything. No signs of another person. No extra footprints. No damage to the back seat. But it was wet, soaked, like someone had sat there dripping. And on the fogged-up rear window, a handprint, small, pale, smeared in mud, with fingernails that had carved 4 long scratches across the glass.
It was nearly 12:30 a.m. when I left my cousin's wedding reception in Batangas. The DJ was still blasting Dancing Queen. I was stone sober, designated driver, and more than ready for the 2-hour haul back to Laguna. The rain had let up, but everything, the asphalt, the rice fields, even the car windows, still glimmered with beads of water. I stopped at a lone 24-hour station to top up on gas and instant coffee. While I fumbled with the pump, The bell above the mini-mart door jingled, and a man stepped out, early 30s, average height, wearing a zip-up jacket and carrying a small, mud-spattered canvas bag. His face was forgettable in that way. A crowd's kissing extra is forgettable. No scars, no tattoos, no distinguishing marks at all. He walked straight toward me, hands visible, calm as a monk. "Sir, heading north." "Yeah, Calamba. Can you drop me at San Miguel Crossing?" "My cousin's place. No trikes this late." "I get it. Normally, you never do this." But his voice was level, almost gentle, and the station lights were bright enough that nothing seemed shady. Plus, I just heard speeches all night about kindness and family, so against better judgment, I said sure. He thanked me softly, tossed his bag in the back seat, slid up front, and buckled in, except he didn't actually buckle. The belt clicked, but never latched. 10 minutes in, windshield wipers thumping, he hadn't spoken a word. To break the silence, I asked the usual name, where he was headed next, how long the visit would be. He answered with polite one-liners, and then asked, "Do you believe in fate?" Soft, like he was fishing for a confession. I half laughed. Sod, "Can't say I do?" He smiled, long, narrow smile that never reached his eyes. "Not yet," he said, and turned back to the dark window. Miles rolled by. No sign of any San Miguel Crossing. My phone died even though it had been at 50% a few minutes earlier. The dash GPS lost signal. Fog crawled out of nowhere, thick as smoke, swallowing the headlight beams. Finally he spoke again, barely above the hum of the engine. "You know they say, every choice pulls you closer to the moment you're supposed to meet." I tried to keep it light. "Supposed to meet who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he raised his right hand. I noticed dirt under every nail, like he'd been clawing through a field. The smell of wet soil filled the cabin, stronger than the coffee in my cup holder. That's when he leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. "Slow down," he whispered. "We're almost there." But the highway ahead looked exactly like the stretch behind us. No shoulders, no signage, just blacktop and fog. I eased off the gas. "Where exactly is there?" He lifted one finger, pointing into the mist. "You'll see it." Seconds later, an unmarked gravel road appeared on the right. One I swear hadn't been there before. It dove into a corridor of towering mango trees, their branches arching overhead like ribs. Against all instincts, I turned. The tires crackled over gravel. The trees swallowed the last of the highway lights. We crawled for maybe half a kilometer, when he suddenly said, "Stop." The headlights revealed a narrow wooden bridge over a black, narrow river. No railings, just planks slick with rain. "Look," he said, and pointed to the bridge. In the beams I saw a bundle of wilted sampaguita garlands, nailed to a post, a roadside memorial. Burned-out candles lay around it, their wax streaked like tears. He exhaled, almost a sigh of relief. "This is the place," I said. "You live here." But my voice cracked. The question sounded ridiculous even to me. He unbuckled, finally, and reached into his canvas bag. For one tight second, I was sure he'd pull a knife. Instead, he produced an old Polaroid camera and a single envelope already sealed. "Do me a favor," he said, handing me the envelope. "Drive on and mail this. When you hit the next town." I glanced down. No name, just an address written in neat block letters. The ink looked wet, as if it had been written in the last few minutes. When I looked up to ask questions, he was already out of the car, camera dangling from his neck. He walked onto the bridge, stood exactly where the garlands were nailed, and turned back to me. Flash. The strobe lit the fog for a heartbeat, then darkness again. I rolled down the window, rain mist hitting my face. "Hey, you sure you're okay out here?" He raised the freshly developed Polaroid and held it up like proof. Flash again, though the camera hadn't fired. The bridge blazed white for an instant anyway, like lightning without sound. That was enough. I slammed the car into reverse, spun around, and tore back toward the highway. In the mirror, the bridge disappeared, behind overlapping bands of fog, until nothing remained but night. It wasn't until sunrise, parked at a roadside diner, that I remembered the envelope. Inside was a single Polaroid, the one he'd just taken. It showed the front of my car on that bridge, but I wasn't in the driver's seat. He was, smiling that same thin smile, and next to him, in the passenger seat, sat another man, who looked exactly like me. Dirt under his nails, eyes wide, mouth frozen mid-screen, scrawled on the white border in shaky pen. Fate keeps the copy. You get the life. I threw the photo away, mailed the empty envelope, and never took that highway again. But sometimes, when I drive at night, I check my rearview mirror and swear, I see headlights that match my own, following, waiting for the next wrong turn.
It was a Sunday afternoon, when my aunt called and asked if I could check on the small property she owned up in the hills of Antipolo. Her caretaker had quit a week ago, and the new one wasn't answering her calls. She offered gas money and free dinner, so I said yes. The house sat along a narrow, cracked road barely wide enough for one car. The last time I'd been there, I was maybe 11. It looked exactly as I remembered. Modest, wooden, with weathered green paint, and a rusting tin roof. But something about it felt off. The air was still, not quiet, still, like the trees, the grass. Even the insects had paused. I knocked twice. No answer. I stepped inside with the spare key. The screen door creaked, like it hadn't moved in days. The air inside smelled faintly of boiled ginger. And something else. Sweet, rotten, like overripe fruit. Kuya? I called out. No one replied. I checked the kitchen. A pot still sat on the gas stove. Empty, lid open. In the bedroom. The bed was made, but the pillows were stacked, like someone had left in a hurry. Then, in the back hallway, I saw the slippers. One pair of worn-out rubber slippers, placed neatly side by side, and a second pair I didn't recognize. Men's boots. Muddy. Far too large for the caretaker. That's when I heard it. A quiet thud upstairs. There was no second floor. But above me, the ceiling boards gave a soft creak, like someone walking carefully. I froze, slowly backed away, and then my phone rang. It was my aunt. I whispered, "Tita, I think there's someone in the house." She sounded confused. "Why? Is Kuya Ben there?" "No, but I think someone else is." Upstairs, in the attic, dead silence. Then she said something that chilled me. "There's no attic." I looked up again. That thudding noise? It was moving toward me. I whispered that I'd call her back, and slowly walked outside, careful not to run. But just as I reached for the doorknob, something tapped from behind me. A light, deliberate tap-tap on the wooden floorboards. I didn't turn. I just stepped outside and pulled the door shut, holding the knob tight, in case it tried to open again. Nothing happened. I didn't see anyone come out. I bolted down the steps, got in the car, locked the doors. I sat for a second, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. And then, I saw the second floor window. There was a window up there. A face stared through it. Not fully visible, only the upper half. But it watched me, with a stillness that screamed alertness. The curtain never moved. It was like it had always been standing there. I drove off so fast I nearly clipped a tree. I didn't stop until I hit the town proper. Later that night, my aunt messaged me. She'd called the barangay. They sent 2 tanids to check it out. Here's what they found. No caretaker. No signs of a break-in. No boots. But there was an attic door, hidden behind a false ceiling panel. One of the tanids climbed up to check. He said it was cramped and full of dust. But he found 3 things. 1. An empty bowl with dried rice, stuck to the bottom. 2. A bundle of cut hair wrapped in banana leaf. 3. A small notebook. Only 1 page had writing on it. In faded pencil, all uppercase letters. "Do not open the door if it taps twice." That was it. No name, No date. My aunt didn't believe it. Said the tenants were just messing with me. But I knew what I heard. And the worst part, I wasn't even the one who opened the door. It had already been unlocked.